We're getting a good amount of folks joining. Going to give it another minute for more to trickle in, and then we'll get into it. Thank you so much, everybody. All right, we might have a few more folks trickling in, but it's 2:01, so I think we should get started. Again, thank you so much to everybody who is joining today's webinar. We're really excited to share these updates with you to the Charge Ready New York 2.0 program. As is the case with all of our webinars, this will be recorded and will be posted on our website within the week. So if you miss anything today or want to come back and hear any of the content again, you should be able to do so. To introduce myself, my name is Sophie Padka. I'm a project manager here at NYSERDA working on this program. Also on the line available to answer questions is Dave McCabe, who is another project manager on Charge Ready New York 2.0. We also have a couple of our colleagues over at the Center for Sustainable Energy, Stella Lee and Yanel Fernandez, who are also available to answer your application questions. So just to give a little context about these program updates, we went and spoke to a few folks who have participated in the program and heard what was going well, heard about what some things could be improved, and we decided to make some adjustments to the program to get more chargers installed throughout New York State. So really excited to launch these, and there will be a portion for Q&A at the end as well. You're welcome to type your questions in the chat throughout the webinar, and some of us may be able to answer them, but we will also be leaving time for questions at the end. With that said, I think we can jump to the next slide. So the first changes that we're excited to share with you is that the date of the program, we are extending it from December 31st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026, or until funding runs out. Additionally, one of the major changes that we've made to the program is we've decided to remove public facilities as an eligible location and increase the incentive levels for workplaces and multi-unit dwellings and for disadvantaged communities. So you can see here in this chart that the public facility incentive amount has been removed, and the base incentive for workplace and multi-unit dwellings has increased to $3,000 with an additional $1,000 for disadvantaged communities, rather than the previous 500. We have also removed the minimum 10 port minimum for large and small locations and that delineation. So all installations must now have a minimum of 4 ports. And to share a little bit of why we decided to remove the public facilities. So we found that public facilities receive higher incentives from the Make Ready programs than from workplace and multi-unit dwelling locations. So the final cost per port to equipment owners at public locations was $500 per port, while the workplace and multi-unit dwellings was $3,000 per port. So we decided to eliminate the public location while increasing the incentives and disadvantaged community bonuses in order to serve the needs better. Next slide, please. So to clarify some of the site eligibility rules, not all of this is new, so I'll share what's new and what is continuing. So applicants, as I've stated before, must now install a minimum of 4 charging ports at each site. So we removed that large and small location delineation. These next few bullets are the same, but wanted to make sure that folks were still on the same page about what we're keeping and what we're changing. So all locations still must have a minimum of 20 parking spaces. Applicants still may no longer still may not apply for more than 25% of the total assigned parking spaces, as well as 25% of total unassigned parking spaces, up to a maximum of 40 charging ports per site. Any existing charging ports located at the site will still be subtracted from the maximum amount allowed. And we also still require all charging equipment to be networked charging equipment and maintain network services for the duration of the 5-year program reporting requirement. So that is remaining. What else is new is charging stations and assigned parking spaces reserved for exclusive use as if an individual apartment or reserved for fleet vehicles are eligible at a reduced incentive level. And I see a question in the chat, when were public locations made ineligible? That is this program update now. So as of, we made our implementation manual updates last month. Moving forward, public locations are ineligible. Yes, thanks,
So if you can jump in for just a second. The changes went into effect on April 18th. So any application that was submitted prior to April 18th as any public location prior to April 18th is still going to be accepted and processed in the normal routine. Any application that was submitted after April 18th is not eligible as a public location.
Great clarifying point. Thank you, Dave. With that, we can move to the next slide. So wanted to go into some details about site eligibility for workplaces, and then we'll talk about multi-unit dwellings. So we are defining workplace sites as a commercial property owned or leased by an organization that provides EV charging to employees on a preferential basis over contractors, customers, or other visitors parking on site. So these chargers are intended for those directly employed by the organization, but may be made available to visitors of the workplace. So these include office buildings, factories, universities, and inpatient hospitals. Municipal and state organizations also may apply. And so these include administration buildings, maintenance facilities, town halls, etc. Charging stations at car dealerships must be installed in a designated employee parking area and clearly defined in the submitted site maps in the application. And site hosts also must install signs that explicitly say that these chargers are reserved for employees during business hours. So signs can be installed at each charging location or at a general location in the parking facility that is clearly visible to drivers. What we're really trying to get at here is some of the nuances and gray areas that come with workplaces. So we just want to make sure that while a parking lot, for example, may have different folks parking in it, but we want to make sure that the signs are clearly stating that these are for employee uses during employee business hours. Next slide, please. So to go into some detail about multi-unit dwellings, so a multi-unit dwelling is a location where parking is primarily intended for tenants and residents of the location, but may also serve visitors as well. So for a multi-unit dwelling site, more than 50% of the vehicles regularly parked at the multi-unit dwelling site must be primarily driven by residents. This is different for motels and hotels. So when we're thinking apartment buildings, must be primarily driven by residents. So an example of multi-unit dwelling sites include apartment buildings, condos and co-ops, public housing, and motels and hotels are also considered multi-unit dwelling sites. So these locations must have a minimum of 10 dwelling units total on site, but individual buildings on that site must have at least 5 dwelling units in each dwelling. So if you picture a multi-unit dwelling site that has several buildings all around it, each structure must have 5 dwelling units. This is because this program is really to target some of our larger locations across the state. So things like duplexes, triplexes, and things like that will not be considered a multi-unit dwelling site under our program. So only owners of the site also may apply as an equipment owner. So you have to be an owner of the multi-unit dwelling site in order to qualify. And to go into some more detail about signage, once again, the multi-unit dwelling installations must be accompanied by signage that clearly indicates that the EV charging is prioritized for tenants. And when it comes to hotels and motels, since it's a little different, they must have signage that clearly indicates that the EV charging is prioritized for guests. So just to make sure that it's very clear that these chargers are for those who are using the workplace charging or the multi-unit dwelling charging. Next slide, please. So just to make it a little more clear, sites that are currently ineligible for Charge Ready 2.0, parking facilities intended for public parking. And again, like Dave clarified, this is for all applications that were submitted after April 18th. So if you had an existing application before then, you're not getting kicked out of the program, but moving forward, we are no longer considering public sites. Restaurants and bars are also not eligible for Charge Ready New York 2.0. Reason being, the Primary users of those parking lots are the public, and these chargers are intended for workplaces and multi-unit dwellings, employees, and residents. Additionally, this is continuing on from previous iterations, but seasonal locations that operate less than 75% of the calendar year continue to be ineligible. Only real update here on this slide is the public parking update, but wanted to make the rest of it clear and how this will show up in the program. Next slide, please. So to get into some more detail about the bonus incentive, so we updated the small and large locations to small and large installations since we're no longer requiring those parking minimums in the same way we did before. So 10 ports is eligible for $10,000 and less than 10 ports is eligible for a $4,000 bonus. So 36-month minimum leases are also eligible for the vehicle purchase portion of the bonus incentive. This was always true, but we just wanted to make it clear that leased vehicles are eligible for the bonus incentive of Charge Ready New York. We also reduced the required vehicle purchases as this part of the program as well. So previously, small locations had to purchase at least 2 vehicles. Now, a small installation only has to purchase 1 vehicle. And then previously a large location had to purchase 4 vehicles, and now a large installation only has to purchase 2 vehicles. So we reduced that vehicle purchase or lease requirement. Next slide, please. So we also made some updates to equipment owner program requirements. So we changed the quarterly report requirement to 1 resource within the first quarter following project completion, rather than the 4 quarterly updates within each quarter. So now when your project is completed, you have to send the marketing resource 1 time within the first quarter of project completion. We also are requiring an additional document from the Department of Agriculture and Markets, and this is a EVSE notification report. And we have an example of that coming up on the next slide. So this is what that form looks like. So when some background about what this is. When you go to a gas station, it's evaluated by the Department of Weights and Measures and Department of Agriculture. This is to make sure that the pricing information is accurate and the amount of fuel that is being dispensed is accurate. This is now being done for electric vehicle chargers throughout New York State. Any public locations or locations that people will be purchasing power from an electric vehicle charging station will need to undergo an inspection by Agriculture and Markets. This is because we want to make sure that the kilowatt hours and the pricing information are being displayed accurately for consumers. So we do require you to fill out this form and submit it to Department of Agriculture and Markets, and also submit it as a part of your application. And the way this logistically works is somebody from the Department of Ag and Markets will come and inspect your charging station, and for a fee. So this is a new piece of the program. Ag and Markets is slowly rolling this out. So as we continue to get more information about how the logistics of this work, we will continue to share and be able to answer questions about this. But we do require this form going forward as a part of your application. Next slide, please. So going into some more detail about equipment owner program requirements. So we have some signage requirements updates. So the equipment owner must provide on-site signage or pavement markings that clearly indicate that the adjacent parking space is reserved for electric vehicles while charging only. So signage must be permanently installed and weatherproof to last the entire 5-year reporting requirement for the program. So stenciled graphics on the parking pad indicating that parking is only for electric vehicle parking are not recommended because those don't last as long. So logos and icons are not accepted as well. So we do require a weatherproof sign that will last 5-year reporting, the 5-year reporting requirement. Additionally, signage must clearly indicate that non-electric vehicles parking in spaces designated as an EV parking only may be towed at the vehicle owner's expense. Additionally, signage also must clearly indicate that EV parking is reserved or prioritized for employees or tenants as described in the previous sections that we reviewed in multi-unit dwellings and workplaces. Additionally, larger installations that have groups of chargers in several different locations need a sign at each one to make sure that the use of those charging stations is clear. So if there are clusters of charging stations throughout a site, each one of those sites needs to fulfill these signage requirements. Next slide, please. So additional information on equipment owner program requirements. So equipment owners also must install bollards with a minimum height of 36 inches or permanent wheel stops placed at least 36 inches from the charging equipment. Additionally, the parking spaces must be well lit during the hours between dusk and dawn. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we also have some updates to the required documents. We are allowing e-signatures for a majority of our documents on this program. We still are requiring the equipment owner agreement to be a wet signature, but the rest will be moved to e-signatures shortly. So we're currently in process of making that possible, and then it will be rolled out, and we'll be able to submit e-signatures for the applications. Existing chargers, if you are applying and you already have existing chargers on your site, these need to be clearly demarcated on the submitted site map, so we know which chargers you're applying for versus existing chargers. We also, for the charging equipment certification form, just added some clarity here. We added company to the equipment owner to eliminate confusion between company and individual. We also, as we reviewed earlier, we do have that new document that is required for the Bureau of Weights and Measures and Department of Agriculture notification report. Next slide, please. So there are a couple places where this will show up in the Salesforce application, so just wanted to call those out for you all. So since we are really making sure that the EV charging is provided to employees on a preferential basis in workplace sites, we do have a drop-down menu here asking if the EV charging is provided to employees. And to be clear, if the answer is no to this question, the application will be closed out and you will not be eligible. Next slide, please. And for multi-unit dwellings, we followed some similar steps. So we added some questions here based on these program updates. So we are asking if at least 50% of the vehicles are regularly parked at this site are driven by residents. We're asking for the total number of on-site housing units. And we are asking if all of the buildings have a minimum of 5 housing units. And of course, again, if the answers to these questions don't meet our eligibility requirements, the application will be closed out. Next slide, please. So for multi-unit dwellings, like we mentioned earlier in the slides, 50% of vehicles driven by residents. Total on-site housing units must be 10 or more, otherwise the location is ineligible, and there must be a minimum of 5 units per building. If it's under 5 units, the building does not count towards the 10-unit minimum. Next slide, please. So now for our informational purposes, primarily, we are asking if third-party incentives are a part of this project as well. So these do need to be entered into an additional field in addition to being itemized or noted on invoices. Next slide, please. And to close things out, we do have some new definitions in our definition section. So we define the participant agreement as an element of the application process that provides NYSERDA with contact and payment information for the equipment owner and the installer. This is different from the project application and must be completed by the equipment owner, even if the application is submitted by the installer. We added a definition for payee, which is the entity who will receive the incentive payment. The payee may or may not be the equipment owner or the installer. We also added a definition for port, which is the connection point between the charger and the vehicle where the charger is plugged in. We also added a definition for project application, which of course is the application process in the Salesforce portal with project-specific information for the locations. And we also included additional information on white-labeled models or networks. So these are EV chargers or networks that are manufactured or developed by one company and then rebranded and sold by another company. So the original equipment manufacturer or OEM or network developer must be approved for the RFQL 5312 process for their white labels project in order to be eligible under our program. Next slide. Great. So wanted to provide some contact information. Questions can be directed towards the Energy Center at chargereadynewyork@energycenter.org. You may also reach out to me at sophie.patka@nyserda.org or my colleague Dave McCabe at david.mccabe@nyserda.newyork.gov if you think of any questions after this Q&A period. But for now, happy to get into some questions, and thanks so much for joining and hearing our presentation. Stella and Yanel, are there any questions in the chat have been left unanswered so far?
A couple going down the line. The next one up is Adam Jester asking if the agricultural and markets inspection, is that one time or annual? Apologies if you answered this in the discussion.
No problem. I believe that is a one-time inspection. If I'm wrong about that, Dave,
It
jump
will
in.
be done. Yeah, it will be done randomly. Obviously, they can't get to all the charging stations every year, but for instance, the gas stations, they're done annually. I don't think the Department of Agricultural Markets has the equipment to be able to do that for all the charging stations in the state. But I don't know how often they would come to your location. And I don't know what the fee is, to be quite honest with you. Do you know that, Sophie?
The fee, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. Yeah, Ag and Markets is rolling this out as we speak. So once we get more information, we will be happy to keep folks in the loop.
Yeah, this has actually been a New York state law for over 10 years. And we just found out about it last year when the Department of Agricultural Markets came to us and asked us if we could include it in our application. So it's news to us as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question.
The next question comes from Veronica Card. I had answered this in another answer just above, but it's do you have samples of the signage for workplace and mud requirements? We do have a sample ready to be distributed by CSC. Just email us at chargereadyny@energycenter.org. But it would be the same signage that we've been requiring since the beginning of the program. There should be EV charging while parking only, as well as any unauthorized vehicles may be towed at owner's expense and risk. It could be EV parking only or EV parking while charging only. As for the workplace and mud requirements that have become into addition with these new updates, it would be something along the lines of prioritized parking for employees, tenants, or guests if it's a motel or hotel. And those could be generalized signs that can be placed in a general area of the parking space. If those chargers are separated throughout the site in groups, we would need at least one sign per group of chargers that would say that they were prioritized for employees, tenants, or guests. The next question comes from Jackson Miley. Are incentives still available for chargers which are reserved for employee resident guests use during certain hours, but which are open to the public use at other times? If so, is there a certain ratio reserved to public hours which is required to qualify?
Great, thanks, Yanel. And I'm going to kick this one over to Dave, who is our primarily application processor.
Yeah, if I understand the question correctly, you're asking if you can allow the public to use the chargers in non-business hours, and yes, you can. As long as the chargers are prioritized for employees or tenants, employees during business hours, and prioritized for tenants at a multi-unit dwelling location. And the same thing with a motel hotel, as long as they're prioritized for guests. If you want to allow the public to charge there, you're welcome to do that.
Great, thanks, Dave.
Thank you. The next question comes from Shan. Do you need minimum employee count to be eligible for workspace charging? Yes, that is correct. That is included in our implementation manual and has not changed. since the launch. The program requires there to be a 20 minimum employee count for workplace sites.
Thanks,
The next question is for Will Crespo. Being that a lot of lots require a number of handicap parking, does this affect handicap parking spots or how many EV parking can be added?
Are you asking if you can allow EV chargers in a handicapped parking location? If that's the question, the answer is yes, you can. The question is, does it affect the number of chargers you can install because of the number of parking spaces minus the number of handicap sites? Yeah, I'm not sure what they're asking.
Yeah, so to be clear, yes, you may install charging stations at handicap parking spaces. You don't have a certain, they don't count against your total number of ports or anything like that. So they're treated the same as other parking spaces.
Okay. Will Crespo commented just below saying correct at the very bottom. I think that was answered.
Okay, great.
The next question comes from Chris. Are valet pay-to-park parking garages eligible under the new requirements?
If they are not a public garage, then yes. You know, if they're associated with a condominium apartment building, then yes, they would be eligible. If it's a public garage, they are not.
Thank you. The next one comes from Adam Jester. I have a project that was submitted and approved prior to the most recent update, though the equipment hasn't yet been installed. Does this project need to be held in particular to the new signage and bollard requirements?
Yes. If it's not completed, yes.
Deborah Zarbo comes up with the next question. So if you have a condo apartment, one building with 50 apartments in the building, will that qualify if one building is not 10 buildings?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So we were using a lot of those information of like multi-unit, multi-building sites just to make it clear that we do have a minimum of 5 units per building. But if you only have one building with 50 units, that would certainly qualify. Yes.
Mm-hmm. The next question is from Jackson Milley. To clarify, the incentives are still available for sites which are principally intended for employee, resident, or guest use, but which are also accessible by the public with the condition that signage clearly indicate the order of preference for charger use, for example, for employee use. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Jackson. Then followed up by, are incentives still available for chargers which are reserved for employee, resident, guest use during certain hours, which may or may not be open to the public use at any other times? If so, there's a certain ratio. Yeah, already answered as well. Yeah, they would be. Then from Steve, are DC fast chargers covered by the program? Unfortunately not, no. The program still only covers level 2 chargers, not DC fast chargers. Those would be level 3 and not eligible for the program. Isabel Wilson asks, is it possible to get a copy of this presentation? Yes, the presentation is being recorded and will be posted on the Charge Ready website once it's finished, really. And Clarence Romeo also asking for a copy of the deck. Yes. Have you had any questions about churches? They used to fall under public, from Jory Wellman, if churches would remain eligible.
If the parking spaces are designated for those who work at the church, then yes, they would be eligible. But if it's designated for the public, it would not be eligible under the program moving forward.
And
I would think it'd have to be a very large church to have 20 employees, right?
Yes.
Next one is from Veronica. Is there any talk about any more incentives since the program extended the time frame and the governor announced new funding for EVs?
If you're referring to
No.
newer programs, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no, the reason we extended the program was just to allow us so that if we do get additional funding, we can add that funding to the program easier without having to go through this modification process. That's the only reason why we extended it. Plus it allows, if we still have funding left at the end of the year, we can just keep going. So it's, as it reads right now, it's open till December 31st of 2026 or until the program runs out of funds. Will we have more funds to add to it? We don't know. We're always looking for additional funding. We hope to be able to add new funding. No guarantees we're going to get any more, but we have the ability.
Thank you, Dave. The next question comes from Venki. Is participant agreement an additional form that needs to be filled out by the equipment owner? The participant agreement is filled out by whoever is applying, whoever is submitting the application, and should also be filled out by whoever is the payee if it's not the same as the applicant. That would be just after creating an account with NYSERDA to submit these applications, and the application would not be able to be submitted before submitting a participant agreement through the online portal. It'll give you a blocking error saying that you wouldn't be able to continue on further unless it's finished off before. And Clarissa asks,
the participation agreement gathers the information that we need for finance to be able to make payment to whoever the payee is. So it's a company name, contact information, TIN, EIN number, those types of things. It's like a 4-step application process, very quick and simple, but it's just the information so that we can make payment to whoever's going to receive payment.
Mm-hmm. And Clarissa asks, EVSE notification should be submitted by the contracting, installing, and managing the grant for the client, and at what point? Initial submission. This should be on the agricultural and markets form.
Yes, so that should be submitted by whoever is managing the application in the application form. So it is going to be required in initial submission.
Thank you. Lauren asks, if a network and white labeled equipment are sold together, does both the network and the OEM need to be qualified, or can the network apply for both?
Both the network and the OEM need to qualify because we have requirements for networks and then we have requirements for charging equipment. So both need to be submitted.
Mm-hmm. Jason asks, or provides a comment, if there is a networking requirement from agriculture and markets, could just look at the online information about costs. It would save a lot of time and mileage to check the costs related to networked charging stations.
I see what you're saying. I think it's more to make sure that it has more to do with what you're seeing on the display screen when you go to the physical charger, rather than the information that's being reported. So this is separate from reporting requirements from charging use and pricing information that are already being gathered. This is more direct to consumer information verification. So it does need to be checked physically, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. Mackenzie asked, will listing any incentives that have already been awarded, which I believe he said is now a requirement during the application process, affect the award of this particular incentive program?
No,
it will not. Yeah, it's just for our information purposes. So it's not going to count against your incentive with this program.
Mm-hmm.
No, your incentives, we have base incentives per port that you install. So you install 10 ports at a workplace location that's not in a DAC, you're going to get $3,000 per port. It's $30,000, regardless of how much make-ready funding you received. This is just for our tracking purposes. We've always required it on the proof of payment, and we've been just going into the final proof of payment and taking that information out of there. Now we're just asking you to put it into the Salesforce record. So now it's in Salesforce where we can pull reports and just pull this information quickly.
Mm-hmm. I would just add to that to do be aware that if you do receive funding from the DEC or NYPA or another incentive that covers 100% of the cost of the chargers, they would not be eligible. And these are also stated in the implementation manual. Clarissa then asks, in October 2024, we were originally provided a packet from NYSERDA with samples of each photo that needs to be taken of example quotes and invoices. Are there updated versions of these? Yes, Clarissa, we do have updated drafts of these. Please reach out to our general inbox, chargereadyny@energycenter.org. We would be able to send those out to you. Jan also asks, will schools offering charging to faculty during school hours and public charging to residents at night qualify?
Universities are eligible.
Okay. The next question comes from Dermot Sarbo. National Grid told me today the charge ready incentive will be reduced to 50% for chargers that are not open to the public and are restricted to employees.
You may be referring to the Make Ready program. Our program has the base incentive per port and isn't based on a percentage. So I think that has to do with the National Grid's managed Make Ready program.
Ronald asks, if a hotel motel is seasonal from April through October, would that qualify? Non-guests would charge November through March.
So seasonal locations that operate for less than 75% of the year are not eligible. So however that works out impacts the eligibility. So if they need to operate for at least 9 months of the calendar year.
Yeah, that would be 7 months. And Goldie asks, in a private building where the chargers are assigned to a driver, you only get 1,000 per charger. Yes, if they would be assigned to a specific individual or they're used for fleet charging, which you would only get 2, they would get the minimum amount of the incentive, $1,000 for that port. Jackson asks then later on, thank you for the responses. How are business hours defined? Those will vary or hard to define between different places of employment, hospitality sites, and MUDs.
So the business hours requirement is for workplaces is when the workplace is open and when employees are working there. So if it's 9 to 5, then the chargers are available 9 to 5, and the chargers are available for employees during that time. So whatever the shift looks like for employees, chargers need to be made available to them during that time. And then for hotels and motels and things like that, it's different. Of course, it's when residents and guests are on the site using the chargers. So the business hours requirement is different for those because people are there all the time. So it's just when the designated user of the chargers is going to be on site and using the chargers.
Thank you, Sophie. Steve has the next question. Is there a requirement to have a percentage of your EV chargers be handicap parking? No, there will not be. None are required to be handicap parking. Chris asks, is more funding expected to arrive after the 12 million is exhausted? Not expected, but it can be definitely looked for in other sources of funding. Nothing as of yet. The next question comes from M. Any way to get the recording of this webinar? It should be posted in the Charge Ready website itself in the coming days once it's edited down. David Newman asks, can an equipment provider qualify if they lease the property from the property owner? I have a property owner who would like chargers installed but not willing to invest in chargers.
Yes, if the network provider is going to be the installer and is going to be the equipment owner that is going to be responsible for the charging data and the maintenance of the vehicles for the 5-year reporting period, then yes, they would be eligible to apply.
Thank you, Dave. Maggie asked, how does bus fleet electrification fall within these updates?
So it doesn't, yeah. This is a program that's entirely separate. If you do have questions about bus electrification, I'm also a project manager on the New York School Bus Incentive Program, the charging side, so totally welcome to shoot me an email and I'd be happy to chat about that.
Thank you, Sophie. Ed asks, would workplaces that are members-only gyms qualify that have 20+ employees?
Yes, as long as those charging stations are designated for the employees of the gym.
Thank you, Sophie. Ronald asks if a hotel motel is seasonal from, oh, I already answered that. These are repeat questions, some of them. Michael asks, when do you expect funding to run out?
We do not know. We do not have a predictor of when funding should run out. So, yeah.
And Clarissa asks, where can we get the EVSC notification form? It is not in the April 15th, 2025 manual. So it'll be linked in the program resources of our ChargeReady website. The document is not linked through the implementation manual. None of those documents are linked through the implementation manual. They'll all be in those in the program resources page, as well as linked in the application. Whenever you reach step 7 of 9, it'll be linked in that blue box up above where you submit all those required documents.
Yep, that's right. And to be clear, these are all live. All the changes to this program are live on our website as is, so you should be able to find that form right now.
Adam asks, in section 8.3 of the implementation manual, the way I read it, all the site host needs to do is provide NYSERDA with an account to the online portal of the charging network so NYSERDA can gather the data. Is that correct? In other words, the equipment owner isn't running reports and submitting them. NYSERDA is gathering the information on their own at times of their choosing. So
that's correct. That was the change we made since the beginning of this program. In the first round, it was a disaster trying to collect all these reports from everybody. In this round, the network provider, in order to be pre-approved for the program, has to be able to have a data that we can log in. A dashboard that we can log into, and we can review all this charging data and download a report at any time. So all you need to do is give us permission to be able to view your charging data, and then we take it from there.
Mm-hmm. If it is not something that is clear to be done, please do ask your network provider to help you or assist you in sharing that data access with NYSERDA. NYSERDA already has accounts set up with all eligible networks. And they should, at least in my experience, they're all different in the ways that they share data access. So just most of the time it's reaching out to the network provider to ask help on this. Then Jackson asks, does the applicant or site host define the business hours of their site, or is that set by the program?
You define your business hours. So yeah, we don't need you to have your employees there at a specific time of day or anything. Just all we care about is that the chargers are available for their use when they're working at the site.
And Will Crespo is also interested in more information about the bus incentives. That would be to you, Sophie. Please reach out to Sophie Packett's email for more information. And Adam is thanking us for the information here on this webinar. Thank you, Adam. That would be the end of the Q&A that I see submitted.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for asking all these great questions, for being so engaged during the presentation. Of course, we're still available for more questions. We'll be on for another minute or so if you want to drop in any last minute ones. But otherwise, feel free to reach out to any of the 3 email addresses you see here. And we're looking forward to continuing to work with you all. Right, not seeing any additional questions coming in. So yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody again for taking the time to join us today, and for listening to the presentation. And yes, please reach out with any questions. And we will be sharing this webinar on the website and via email to you all, so you should be able to access the slides. And yeah, thank you so much again.